friends, welcome again to my class. Today, my students in my reading and writing skills class will discuss to us about the nature and process of defining a word, a concept, an expression, an idea, etc. etc. So as they will give us tips on how to apply the different techniques, strategies, or methods of defining. So please check this out.
Hello, we are Group 10, and our topic today is Introduction to Definition. Now, our group for today will be discussing about definition, abstract, thesis, and as well two important concepts for definitions or associated with definition, which is denotation and connotation. And for the last part of our video, we will be talking about the techniques for definition. These techniques consist of 10 techniques. Now, for the objectives of this lesson is we will need to understand the nature and process of defining, which is an abstraction, a word, a concept, an expression, an idea, or a thought. We also need to know and apply the different techniques, strategies, or methods of defining to elucidate the phenomenon of mass demonstration. And next up, we have Miguel Garcia, who would be elaborating more of what is a definition, abstract, and thesis.
Good day to you all. I am Miguel Garcia, and I shall be elaborating definition, abstract, and thesis. So, stay tuned. Definition, according to the book, is a mere observation based on a person's perspective or point of view. When the person's perspective or point of view changes, so does the definition or the concept of the definition. Definition or defining is also based on a person's experience. Defining is very important nowadays because it helps others understand what we mean. And understanding can be a very tricky business as everyone are different but similar in an unfathomable way. Yeah, we all have different opinions on different topics, and that could lead to conflict sometimes, which is very reasonable and very self-explanatory. Abstract. As you may all know from our other subjects, abstract is the summary of a paper, whether it is a research paper, an academic paper, or an essay. In other words, it's the overview of the whole thing. Last but not the least is a thesis. Now, according to Google definitions, thesis is the main idea of a paper. In other words, it's the theory being applied into a paper. Now, in thesis papers, there are thesis statements, and there are two types of thesis statements. First being explanatory, the second one being argumentative. Now, the explanatory is basically explaining the whole paper, whilst on the argumentative paper, it basically tries to persuade the reader. And that's it for me elaborating definition, abstract, and thesis. We shall now be moving to Ahmed's part, which is explaining denotation and connotation nonetheless. Thank you for listening.
Hey guys, my name is Ahmed, and today I'm going to talk about what's the difference between connotation and denotation. Two very important concepts most often associated with defining are denotation and connotation. Denotation is the primary explicit or literal definition of a word. One can say that denotation is also the meaning of a word based on a dictionary. Connotation, on the other hand, is the secondary meaning of a word. It is not necessarily included in the dictionary. Rather, it is how people understand a word based on their own personal or consensual experience. To illustrate, let us have an example of a rose. According to the online version of the Oxford Dictionary, a rose is a prickly bush or shrub that typically bears red, pink, yellow, or white fragrant flowers. Native to north temperate regions and widely grown as an ornamental rose. 2018. This is the word rose denotation. On the other hand, a bouquet of roses is usually what a person gives to her or his beloved beyond being a flower with a biological characteristics. A rose can also connote love and romance. Besides denotation and connotation, the following are techniques that one can use as well in a definition essay.
Hey there, I am Jari and I'll be explaining the 5 different techniques that can be used in a definition essay. The first one is analysis, which is the process of breaking down a concept into its constituent parts. It also consists of detailing each part, zooming in to describe the aspects that make up a concept, rather than zooming out and looking at the subject as a whole. An example would be imagining a guitar, and as we all know, it is a musical instrument that produces sound by strumming its strings. Its sound is manipulated through the interaction of the strings with the other parts of the guitar, which are the headstock or the head, the tuners, the nut, the neck, the sound hole, the body, and the bridge. As we can see here, analysis is used to define something in this essay. The second one is called collocation, which is made up of the prefix co, meaning together, and location. Words or expressions are almost immediately associated with the concept you are trying to define. These words or expressions are usually located together, hence the name collocation. An example would be that most people make their bed every day. In this example, the collocation would be to make the bed. Here, the verb make is put side by side with the noun bed, hence a collocation. Now, the third one is called comparison. Now, comparison is the association of a word or expression you're trying to define with something else that is not necessarily synonymous with it. It is highly dependent on imagery, which creates a vivid picture of a concept in the reader's mind. Comparison is usually used through analogy or through figurative language, like similes and metaphors. It is used to make abstract concepts more understandable by using comparison to appeal to the human sense of sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch. The expression that life is a long and winding road would be an example of comparison used in an essay, since an unfamiliar and most often misinterpreted concept like life could be described more accurately using these feelings we've experienced in the past. Now, the fourth is contrast. Contrasting means discerning how at least 2 similar concepts are different from each other. It also means to compare and show differences between 2 or more topics at hand. To contrast something is to use differences in aims to show definition. A simple example would be black and white by seeing the differences in intensity of color, so to speak. Fat and thin by seeing the differences in width and mass. However, it can be also used to describe complex ideas as well, such as the differences between a mass demonstration and a riot. A riot implies destruction and upheaval. The seizing of food, the release of prisoners, and the destruction of property all come under the definition of riot, while the aims of mass demonstrations are more symbolic. It demonstrates that force should be scarcely used, and this is contrast. Now, the fifth and final one is called etymology. Now, etymology means the history of a word. It explains the evolution of a word and how it has come to be at its most present form. It also means the origin and the composition of a word. For example, appassionato is the past participle of the Latin word that means to impassion. If passion is so good, then why do many fear it? Because by its etymology, from the Latin word passus, past participle of pati, meaning to suffer, it brings pain. To be capable of passion, one must be open, vulnerable, and brave enough to stare pain in the eye. And here we can see the usage of etymology in an essay of definition. Now that is all for my part, and the rest of the techniques will be discussed shortly. Thank you.
Example citation. Example citation is defining something by giving examples. Example: books are considered to be credible and reputable resource material to consult when you are trying to find the definition of a word. For example, our dictionary, encyclopedias, journal, article, textbook, and thesaurus. Function. Another way of understanding what a word or concept means is to know what its purpose is. It answers the question, what is it used for? Example: whether it may be an ancient sandal, a classy pocket watch, a Rolex or watch wrist watch. An antique grandfather clock or the mighty Big Ben of London. A clock for most is a piece of technology whose primary purpose is to measure time. Negation. Negation is a technique that you can use to define a word or concept by explaining what is it not. Example: love is patient, love is kind, it doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it is not proud, it doesn't dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love doesn't delight in evil, but rejoice with the truth. For 1 Corinthians 13:4-6. Synonyms. Synonyms are a single word or phrase that share almost the same meaning with the concept you are trying to define. Example: Mokash is characterized by seeking sentimentality or weakly emotional. It can be considered synonyms to nauseating and sickening due to dependence on too much emotion and disregard for logic and reason. Slang, a clipped version of short language, is characterized by informality and is usually used by a specific group of people. Slang can also be considered as street work or colloquial language. Example: another name of hashish is marijuana. Popular slang is the United States, also called is pot or grass. To reiterate, some technique of defining are analysis, collocation, comparison and contrast, etymology, exemplification and illustration, extended definition, defunction, negation, and synonyms. There is no one technique or 10 technique to efficiently explain a word or this concept. This technique can be combined however way you deem necessary and appropriate in your own definition essay.
So, to summarize everything we've learned, some techniques used for defining are analysis, collocation, comparison and contrast, etymology, exemplification, function, negation, synonyms, and slang. And these 10 techniques will surely help you when defining and writing. There is no one technique or techniques to sufficiently explain a word or concept. So these techniques can be combined however way you deem necessary and appropriate in your own definition essay.
Okay, thank you Fatima and Jari for explaining the 10 techniques that we can use for the definitive essay. And that will be it for the video. I hope you learned something and enjoyed. And I hope to see you next time.
せーのでもそんなんじゃダメもうそんなんじゃほら心は進化するよもっともっと
There you go, mga classmates! You have heard the different point of views of my students. So if you want to share your thoughts and opinions too, please comment down and don't forget to click the notification bell in order for you to be updated if I have new videos. And don't forget to subscribe because as I usually say, subscribe now, laugh, and learn later. Once again, ito na naman po ang inyong gurong vlogger ng Kuwait, guro sa umaga, YouTuber, and live streamer paggabi. Saying God bless you all and bye-bye!